What's up, guys? So, this is gonna be kind of like a quote unquote quick video. I don't know. I'm kind of just doing this off the top of my head. Um, and I'm pretty much doing this because I want to answer a question that someone commented on my video about instead of writing because I hate it. I hate writing a lot, like a lot of stuff. I mean, I don't know. I don't, whatever. Um, and also to kind of update where I'm at with GrapheneOS for almost borderline uh, 2 year mark, I believe, is where I'm at. Using it as much as possible. So one of the people um, comment on my video talking about he just installed GrapheneOS, and it'll be thrown up on the screen, obviously, or it won't. I don't know. Installed Graphene. He's like, I installed. They were like, I installed GrapheneOS on my Pixel 7 Pro last week, waiting for my sim. I had high hopes for the user profiles, but it's fairly annoying to switch profiles. I was envisioning a logon screen, but it logs into the main profile every time first. You can't make a shortcut or wide widget to quickly switch profiles. When trying to use fingerprint, there's a bug with the multi profiles and it only prompts for a pin. I also assumed you'd be able to share files between profiles with a common folder or something, like every Unix Linux distro ever made, but I don't see a way to do it. I wanted to have Google services on a separate profile to kill the entire profile when I'm not using it. What's the easiest way to seclude Graphene Google services and still be able to install apps on the other profiles? I read security isn't good on F-Droid and Aurora. I'm not trying to be a ghost, just trying to gain privacy and limited exposure while still having a usable phone without apps running in the background and using my battery and getting my info. So this is somewhat of a nuanced, maybe complex topic that I could break down and explain it as best as I can without trying to misrepresent GrapheneOS. I've read through the docs. There's a lot of information, so I'm going to be going based off what I've read, my experience, what I've listened, what I've heard from other people, from the developers, what I've interacted, and borderline read some stuff that like together how it works. So first off, nuance. I mean, I guess this is gonna be more of like an answer to the question that they're asking, and also relatively giving my experience and my thoughts on GrapheneOS as a whole. Um, the user profile part, I think it's a little nitpicky to care. I mean, yeah, there's some annoying parts, like, but I guess like whatever. It's more of like a personal take. I have no issue with it. I have no issue with like the user profiles. I think it's fine because all you do is just swipe down on the notification bar. You click the user profile and you just switch. I mean, or pretty easy. But whatever. Maybe some people don't know that. It's like in the corner. So if you didn't, awesome. If you did, fuck. Um, but I want to touch on the part with the fingerprint. I've never had an issue with it. So when you switch profiles, I it enforces you to put in a pin. I think for security reasons. Yeah, like I think anytime you switch, yeah, you have to because it's considered a restart. You have to put in the pin. Is that more secure? I don't know. Is I think so. Because then someone could just grab your thumb. That's what auto reboot is for, I believe. Is I remember having a conversation. Auto reboot is because it forces you to the main profile, and then B it forces you to put your pin in instead of having your thumb grabbed and forced to open with biometrics. You could just say you forgot your pen, or if someone grabs your I don't know, the biometrics and pin debate is so esoteric and annoying that I think the developers think that, like, hey, if you're forced to put in a pin, it can give you some greater level of security. So I don't think that's a bug if I'm understanding what his question is, or her, or them, or they, or whatever, or Dan. Which kind of makes sense when you're trying to use fingerprint bug and it prompts for a pin. I don't think that's a bug. I'm 99% sure that's how it has to work. Because when you look at essentially what auto reboot does, Graphene improves the security of the fingerprint unlock by permitting only 5 total attempts, blah, blah, blah. Improve user profiles, blah, blah, blah. And I'll get to the the part where he talks about so auto reboot has pretty much unlocks the configuration time, period time, vice versa, again, by default after 72 hours. So 72 hours, and you can change it to whatever you want. It reboots it, and it forces you to put your PIN in. I think it's a security measure. I just say get used to it. I don't know. There's not much you can change. I mean, GrapheneOS gives you already a shit ton of customization. Like, you can anti-persistent detection, more complex patching, sandbox, storage scope, broad carry support, all that. Like, you can turn off almost every sensor. You can turn off the sensors. You can turn off Wi-Fi, location access. You can individually take off each network access or just restrict it from install. You don't even have to have internet to install the updates from GrapheneOS. That's the very based way to do it. If you absolutely care about security and want to make sure that you're getting the utmost part of security, and I guess this is something I'll touch on real quick. GrapheneOS is more focused on security than it is on privacy. I think they've stated that. They've pretty much embraced that. Privacy is coming by default due to no Google Play service ever bundled in, and it never will. They have right here, you can see the attack surface reduction can also improve privacy by default by not exposing unnecessary radios. It's kind of like, I think, FreeBSD or NixOS or Alpine, because they're so quote unquote more secure, is because they have a lot of features that are just not in use or removed or deep loaded. Like the less access and features that are running, this is just ultimately a better option because it reduces your attack surface. And back to the pin thing, you can do scrambling pin to raise the difficulty of pin by user, if that's what they're looking for. If they're looking, I'll give some suggestions to increase their privacy. But it's sometimes, in order to get that, you might have to increase your security. I don't know. It's perspective. People argue that privacy and security are opposite. To be honest, I think they kind of go in hand, but I don't know. That's another esoteric debate that could go on until the end of time. But to touch on the Google service part, we'll get to that. All right. So I don't think it's a bug. I think it's a feature, unfortunately. Those are, you could look at it as a bug with the fingerprint. I would say because they give you like 32 user profiles, which is fucking crazy and awesome. Yeah, it's like 32, and then they go over like hard. But I think they're more. I'm not saying don't use GrapheneOS because I think it does offer more privacy. It gives you better security. I mean, storage permissions. You get so much fine tuning permissions that it helps increase your overall privacy, in my opinion, and it's pretty based. But what privacy and security are kind of like it's a scale. It's a big scale. It's a complex scale, and it's you can get really you can get really like I don't want to ever like downplay it. Like, oh, it's just a scale. Like, here's the end. Here's your ends. But it is part of a scale. Now, the storage part that I'm about to read. Whoo. Here's the other part. I also assume that you'd be able to share files between profiles with a common folder or something, like every Unix, Linux distro ever made. But I don't see a way to do so that. I wanted to have Google services on a separate profile to kill the entire profile when I'm using it. Here's the good part. First, that would be really bad if storage could be shared amongst profiles. Because think of it kind of like cubes. Like, you want sandboxing is efficient because it's sandboxing. Like, that's the point of it. So having sandbox and then giving storage access to, I don't know if you can. I haven't tried it, and I've looked through everything, and I don't think it's allowed, and it would make sense why it wouldn't be allowed. Having it sandboxed is what makes it more secure. Like, you don't want to give access. Think of it like CubesOS. You wouldn't want you wouldn't want your cubes to interact with each other. That'd be really bad. In my opinion, I think that would defeat the purpose of cubes. You want everything to be separate. The more sandboxed and containerized your life is, the more efficiency at your managing and mitigating threats and like attack surface. And yes, it can be quote unquote more work and complex, but once you do it, it will become second nature. It will eventually become a part of you. Oh, like this virtual machine is used for this. Oh, this profile is used for this. Those things are important to understand that, when we are born to, follow the mass, do this, don't question, don't learn. Like, that's getting, that's getting kind of cringe, but we are built on being social and public about a lot of things. I think it's normal. It's normal to be social in public. Social media makes sense. And having everything online makes sense. And if you've done that your whole life, it makes sense. You don't sandbox things. So like you unlearn that. And especially if you've never done it before and you've never went through the process, it can be daunting and cause people to be afraid to try something new. And then once you do it a couple times, and kind of like 2FA, in the beginning, 2FA was very annoying to me. I fucking hated it. Now I have 2FA on everything. I have my phone set up where I pop it open, grab my token, paste it, done. It's over. It's not annoying. I put 2FA on apps that are on my internal local network that aren't even publicly exposed, and I still think that some people might still think that's overkill. I still find it, like, once I've gotten used to it, I've managed it. It's fine. It's great. Because if there's ever, an oopsie daisy and then someone wants to log in, well, they don't have my token. So, I look at, this is how I look at privacy and security. There are things that I'm willing to compromise on. There are things that I find inconvenience, but I'm willing to deal with because it gives me better sound of sleep. And eventually it became second nature to me where I don't even think about it anymore like that unless I'm talking about it. Apps within the same profile can communicate with mutual consent, and it's no different than Sandbox Google Play. Since the Google Play apps are simply regular apps on the GrapheneOS, you can install them with a specific user. This goes into the GrapheneOS part. He's like, but I don't see a way to do that. And with the storage, there wouldn't. It makes sense now that I'm thinking about it that you wouldn't be allowed to essentially go off and share certain storage access. Now you could technically take an external storage service and share files that way. It's not that even inconvenient. It's more safe, and I would probably do it that way, or find a really good encrypted service like Proton Drive, and just put stuff that you can even encrypt yourself and put up there, and share it amongst profiles. SyncThing is also another one where you can sync everything to a shared folder on your local network, and you'll have constant access to that. I mean, again, there's gonna be limitations for a reason. Google Play. Now you can install this on one device, like one profile, and that's it. You're done. And then you can uninstall it, like have it on one profile and have it on none of the rest. But the cool thing is you don't need Google Play service for like 99% of the apps. Most of them work. Now, I wanted to have Google services on a separate profile to kill them entire profile when I'm not using it. What's the easiest way to schedule GrapheneOS and still be able to install apps on other? Seclude Google service and still be able to apps. Good question. That's a really good question. I believe it's Uptamium. Yeah. It's kind of like F-Droid, but it's from the source. Get Android updates directly from the source. Uptamium allows you to install and update apps directly from the releases pages, receive notifications, news that are made available. You should use it instead of F-Droid. It is based. I use it. I like it. He's like, and the reason he brings this up, he's like, I read the security isn't good on F-Droid and Aurora. I'm not trying to be a ghost, just trying to gain some privacy and limited exposure while having a usable phone without apps running in the background using the battery. F-Droid is fine. I don't think it's great, just like anything else. I don't think it's awful, just like anything. It's a spectrum. But the good thing about Uptamium is you can get it from GitHub, GitLab, CodeBurg, F-Droid, third-party F-Droid repos, Izzy and F-Droid, SourceForge, SourceSun. You can download all of them from these sources, and you're getting them directly from the source. And essentially, that's way more secure. Because the biggest problem with F-Droid is sometimes they can lag behind updates, and yeah, that sucks. So when you lag up behind these updates, you essentially are putting yourself at risk. But when you switch between profiles, just to show you, which is really great about this, especially with this correlates with the apps, or you can use Aurora. The best part, especially Android user profiles are isolated workspaces on their own. App data, profile data. Apps can't see the apps and other user profiles and can only communicate with apps within the same user profile with mutual consent with the other app. Each user has their own encryption keys based on their lock method. They're a great fit for GrapheneOS with a lot of room for improvement, obviously. I mean, you can't get much better than having all of these. Like, this is how I would hypothetically set this up in a perfect world. Let me just. This is how I would set up in a perfect world. I would take my most important apps and keep them on the main profile. So I'm not constantly in other profiles, or I'm thinking about it or whatever. Main profile, main put Google service on it, on that profile only, and make it like your important ones. And then while you're out and you want to mitigate tracking, like the tracking part and all the other goober shit, switch to a minimalist profile. Name it, switch it, and that's going to be your best option. Make 3 profiles. Make one for banking and shopping, and then make one for school and this and work, and then make your main profile whatever you want. The rest don't have to. You'd be surprised how many apps don't work that do work without Google services. I think there's actually a website. I swear. God. No Google mobile services for a year. Yeah, I think there's there's some G I can't do. Go away. There was something I read that I'm looking in live time. Yeah, Google Play service is essentially for almost every Google app to work. That's not true. There's a ton of apps I use without Google service. There's like a select few. I think banking apps need it, and like dating apps. But I run a lot of open source apps that don't need any Google service to run at all. And that's the good part. That's the really good part about like GrapheneOS, and why I love it so much is that you could just set it up. It's very, if you want to be a minimal, you want a nice phone, you want long-term support, you want like de-bloated privacy, security in mind, more hardened, obviously. Just download GrapheneOS and just keep it as is. I mean, it's kind of expensive for a dumb phone, or whatever people call it, the minimalist phone. But if you want just a smartphone that just works, it's great. It comes with like 4 or 5 apps, but no like Google Play service installed. It's easy. I say it's easy. It's awesome. Now my experience is different from everyone else. I think that like the features I use the most, and the thing that I love the most about it, is storage scope, contact scopes. GrapheneOS provides contact scopes as an alternative to granting contact permissions. By default, it acts as if the contacts list is empty, and users can grant different kinds of access. Same thing with storage scope. It's pretty based. Network permissions. Like, you could really just strip a lot, because most of your data is metadata. Metadata is by far the biggest contributor to tracking you. Like tracking you, fingerprinting you. I believe that I was just listening to Security Now that was talking about Telegram Telegram shares contact even when denied. Guess that goes better. Yeah. User joined Telegram and now they're in my contacts. Gosh darn it. I hate Reddit right now. It's such a bitch. Yeah, so yeah, like this guy was like he's like user joined Telegram and now and they're where is it? Telegram is sharing contacts. Telegram pretty much shares contacts. Even when denied. Yeah, they like. Oh, that's not gonna let me. Maybe it's because they got like 6 blockers on it or something. I don't know. Whatever. Fuck you, Reddit. Like pretty much Telegram, they were saying like Telegram shared this guy's contacts even though he denied him. He was like his friend was sitting across from him, and they popped up that they were, which is insane to me. So like having features like this, even if it's limited, denying it and denying network permissions, and denying body sensors, it gives you just a little bit more control just over your phone, which I think you bought it like you should have it. Like I had to do backflips to de-bloat my OnePlus 9, and not everyone is gonna do it. You can make 50. There's probably like 1,000 guides out there on how to do this. People don't want to do that, man. I get it. They're afraid they're gonna break their phone, even though you can't really. I think it said that you even pretty much can. It's really hard, and you should have a backup. But if you don't, and like I get, like if you don't try it, like you don't know. But I get why. I think privacy and security should always be the default. Now, my experience so far, again, has always been good with the storage scope, the contact scope, network permission toggle, sensor permission toggle. Generally, you can go LTE mode if you want, Wi-Fi privacy. It pretty much says that it's pretty much like borderline that it considers Wi-Fi and cellular hostile anyways. So even if like you like kind of trust the Wi-Fi provider, which you shouldn't, and like your cell phone provider, which you also shouldn't, it treats it as like a hostile environment, which it should. Pin scrabbling is kind of cool. Like if you're public and if someone grabs your phone, then they're just gonna see. They're like, oh, I just saw a pattern, but I didn't know what the fuck you put. This is really cool. GrapheneOS fixes several prominent device identifier leaks by bypassing Android's intention of apps by not being able to uniquely identify devices. So it's a way to improve the protection against exploitation and privacy and security. And I think that it also is something that I think a lot of people forget, is because it comes so de-bloated, and it even goes over in a section that it removes broad carrier support without invasive. It has broad carrier support without invasive carrier access. Like it removes a lot, which is pretty nice. I know that they're working really hard. I mean, I get updates all the time, but they're working really hard to get away from, I believe, Android at some point. That's like their end goal. Oh, the Pixel. By the way, Pixel 4a, 5G, and Pixel 5 are end of life and should not be used anymore. Due to lack of security patches, firmware, and drivers, we provide extended support for harm reduction. Very nice of them. Pretty awesome. And then I'm getting updates all the time, which is awesome. Too awesome. but they temporarily disabled memory tagging for hardened malware. Oh, okay. But like I guess like from my me using GrapheneOS is like normal. Like I hand it to people. Like sometimes I'll hand it. Like I'll open up my phone. If someone wants to use it, you can even make a guest profile, which is kind of nice. You open up guests so they can call someone, which is even more nice. Like yeah, add user, and you have so much control over what that user gets to do, which is even more nice. And then once like switch to guests, like boom, hey, they need to make a call. You don't want them going through your phone. Like GrapheneOS comes so clean, and you pretty much like boom, hand it to them. They make a call. There's 1, 2, 3, 4. There's like 10 apps. I wish it came with a fucking calendar though. Whatever. I guess, beggars can't be choosers. I was like thinking about that earlier. I was like, why is there no calendar app? They went all this way. They did all these apps. No calendar? Because with the, I know that simple calendars being end of life, which, whatever. I know that it's being forked, but I'm good. I don't really care. I switched to a different calendar. And I use Edisync anyways, and Edisync's pretty awesome. But I think if you are on the fence, should I go to GrapheneOS? Should I not? Go buy the 6A. It's a little bit newer. A little bit. Or 7. Just install it. There's no reason not to. There's no purpose in getting fucking LineageOS or fucking PureOS or Librem 5, where the fuck it is. Or, I mean, even though I like CalyxOS and I used it, no point. Zero point. Besides, like, I guess competition. Because they use Micro G. Micro G, from like what I read, is not even good. It's an L. I don't know. I've used both. I prefer GrapheneOS. But my advice to this person at foremost, without me going on a longer unhinged rant, is that if you're gonna use GrapheneOS, understand that, and this is gonna be like if you want to just skip to this part, I guess. If you want to use GrapheneOS, look at it as a hardened version of Android. It's security focused. That privacy comes almost by default, in a sense, and it should. To seclude Google services, you have to understand you touch Google almost everywhere. And privacy and security and no tracking is it's not so easy to give you the best answer. My answer is, what are you willing to give up for convenience versus what you're not willing to give up? That's my opinion. If you don't want to give up your privacy and be tracked all the time, then do not install Google Play services at all. And then just if you have the money or you have a second phone, just use that. That'd be silly because you have the options of profiles. Because that would be a normie solution. A true solution is install Google Play services on a profile that you use very limited, and install it there. That would be my suggestion. And minimize the apps you use. Use progressive web apps that are secure. But know that once you switch profiles, it's killed, squashed in the background, so you don't have to worry as much. Instead of looking at F-Droid and Aurora, look at Obtainium. And I think Droidify is similar. I heard about Droidify on a podcast. It's pretty based. Very user friendly. I think Obtainium is just as user friendly, but look into Obtainium. I hope you watch all 35 minutes of this because I'm not editing shit. I really hate editing with a passion. It's boring. It's just boring. But I understand that you're not trying to be a ghost. You just want some privacy and limited exposure while you're still having. Find out what you're willing to lose, like what you're willing to, like exposure-wise. Find out what you don't want exposed and what you do want. You're like, okay, I don't care about that as much, because everyone has things that they don't care about, and that's fine. There's things that I don't care if it gets out there. If someone gets like my foot size or whatever, whatever. But like, I don't want people to get certain information out there, and I think that's fair. So, I guess to boil down into a checklist, I would first understand that GrapheneOS is hardened, a security-focused operating system with privacy in mind. Second, I would make a few different profiles for each case that you want to separate and sandbox. Learn sandbox. Once you sandbox everything, you realize how great it is and how easy it is to manage, honestly. You just got to do it. Second nature. Do it second nature and you will love it, I promise. Obtainium. If you're worried about F-Droid and Aurora, Obtainium is a fantastic solution. That is just my opinion. I use it. I like it. And definitely keep asking questions. What? I was trying to do like maybe some anime girl in the background, so you're not just staring at a picture of release. I don't know. I hate editing. That's what it really is. I don't care really that much, and I don't like always sitting in front of a camera. And then if you say like forget to leave those profiles, to exit them, my recommendation is just do the auto reboot. Every 72 hours, it just defaults back to your more maybe private, more secure profile. Treat each profile with a different level of privacy and security. That's going to be your best bet. I know this turned into a 38-minute rant, and it will be usable, I promise. There's not many apps that I've used that do not. Tap to pay is the only thing I miss. Like, genuinely. If that could be fucking worked out, GrapheneOS would be 100%, 1,000,000% better. Ooh, end session. So GrapheneOS also enables support for logging out of user profiles without needing a device manager controller the device to use this feature. Logging out makes profiles inactive, so none of the apps installed in them can run. It also purges the disk encryption keys from memory and hardware registration, putting the user profile back at rest. You have to remember that. You can also just disable app installation too from a security standpoint, and then I would say definitely if you absolutely, I know it supports something called notification forwarding. So GrapheneOS supports notification forwarding from users running in the background, currently active users, forwarding notifications to other users is disabled by default and can be enabled with each profile. I wouldn't do that because we just did get that news that notifications are very invasive unless you're using a private app that uses a private version of like notifications. Other than that, I would just keep doing what you're doing. Read the documents on GrapheneOS's website. It's really good information. There's still a ton that I have to like constantly read because there's so much. Like they make this very easy for people to understand. And most importantly, don't let it don't let the doom and gloom that you hear on the internet prevent you from taking good steps forward to better privacy and security. And I think that's pretty much it. So have a good holiday.